do really believe 100% from every part of me that everyone has the capacity to be able to do the things that they want and not to be held back by the mental baggage that's in our head that we want to push through.
Welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. In each episode, we get down and personal with people who go after the things they want to make all their wildest dreams come true. Join us as we unveil and dissect a formula for what it takes to do the thing. Here is your host, Stacy Lauren.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacy Lauren. So guys, this is cool because I am bringing back on a repeat Do the Thing visitor, and I interviewed her several months ago, and she is the one that sort of planted the seed in my mind that I wanted to do a Do the Thing Dating Dare challenge before I even knew that I wanted to do one. On her episode, we were talking all about how she lives her life by doing challenges, both through the company that she ended up selling last year, and then also she helps other companies do challenges. And then it was through that interview I realized that I actually wanted to do a dating challenge. And then it was funny, I think 2 months later I ended up doing one. And I'm really excited to get a chance to talk to her because I'm in round 2 of doing this challenge. This one I'm actually working with her directly on, and it's making me realize just how much challenges help you do the thing, because you're really surrounded by the people that can hold you accountable and then also share that same experience with you to help you go even further when you're doing something new. And so I was really wanting to have her come back on so we could dissect more about this concept of how challenges can help you really do anything you want in life, whether it's lose weight, meditate more, date, find a new relationship, open a business, whatever it is you want to do. You can do it through this kind of challenge mindset. So I am so excited to introduce Alicia to the show. Hey, Alicia.
Hey, Stacy. Thanks so much for having me back. I've been so excited for this.
I know we've been kind of working together for the last few months as we've been prepping for this, my Do the Thing Dating Dare challenge. And I just kept thinking how cool it would be to have you on again so we could talk about this specifically, because there's just so much in this that I want to explore with you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was one of the funniest things last week when we met, and it was, oh man, well, we got your challenge set. It's running. We won't be having to meet so often anymore. And we were both kind of sad about it. We just feed off of each other's energy. And so I've been excited to talk with you today and just dissect the challenge strategy, just because you really do ask me the best questions. I just bring out what I think. Sometimes with you, when I have conversations with you, I'm able to really lay out the strategy, I guess, in a different kind of way. So anyways, I've been excited for this for sure.
Let's start off by just talking about what Challenge Makers is and then what you do for companies, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
For sure. So just a little background. So my company, Live Infinitely, I started a long time ago, in 2014. It's the company I ended up selling last year. And through Live Infinitely, that's how I was able to come up with the Challenge Makers strategy. We eventually hit this point in our company that it just felt, I wanted to help people and inspire them to live their life with infinite possibilities. I wanted to build deeper relationships with them. And we hit this point in our business that we were plateauing. We weren't really making those relationships that I had always dreamt of making. And so something had to change with our business at that point. And so Challenge Makers, all of this and what's kind of blossomed had stemmed from this moment in time in my business where I just realized, here's all of our customers that are coming to us to solve a certain problem. And we think we're helping them, providing them our products and maybe an ebook or two. But really, are they going through the transformations that I think we really could help them achieve? And so that's how Challenges, I guess, was born, or the idea of it was, I had this group of women, or all my customers, that I knew wanted to be hydrated. But beyond just being hydrated, I knew they wanted to be healthy and love themselves and stay active and find a community. So I really dug deep that year and just tried to figure out, what could I, as a business owner, provide them that's free, that they could come into our world and I could really help them make this transformation, whether or not they bought our product. And so that's how our 60-day hydration challenge was born, where I was like, okay, well, we'll offer this free 60-day hydration challenge. We'll bring them into our world. We'll help them learn all of these things about nutrition, loving themselves, staying active, staying healthy. And then, of course, our products just kind of help them along the way. And that ended up being something way bigger than I had ever anticipated. I honestly just thought it'd be a really cool way to bring our customers together, but it ended up as cheesy as it sounded, it ended up completely changing my life along the way, because I got the last year and a half to 2 years of running our business. I actually got to know our customers and see their transformations and feel like I was making a good impact in the world with our business. And that excitement for what we had done with our business and just the fulfillment that it brought on a whole different level is what sparked Challenge Makers and my desire to help other businesses experience that same thing.
Yeah. And I think the thing that is beyond everything else that you just said that's so cool is that you weren't even intending to have this other business now, Challenge Makers. And it was literally born from you just taking this step of just wanting to make bigger transformations in people's lives from Live Infinitely. And then it just sort of extended into this whole other business now that you're doing since you exited that one.
Right. That's what I think is so funny. And you and I have had that conversation before, like how things just kind of happen. If you're constantly looking for things, constantly making the steps forward, sometimes you don't know what your next step's going to be. But if you just keep stepping forward, it reveals itself. Like Challenge Makers was never going to be, when I was planning on selling our business, I didn't actually think of Challenge Makers and wanting to do that, but it just became this thing that I knew I could help businesses with and brought in a new fulfillment that Live Infinitely. Once I sold Live Infinitely, I had that void that I'm like, okay, what's my new fulfillment? And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. And I think that's how most people, or from what I can tell from doing this podcast and from talking to people about when they want to do something and they haven't done it yet, it's just that analysis paralysis, because they're trying to think of every single step that they're going to need to do or need to take in order to do the thing. And yeah, sometimes every step, but there's other times that you just take one step and then all of a sudden things become clearer and then you take another step. And I think this is a good example of that.
Right, exactly.
So I'd love to hear about some of the companies that you've been doing challenges for. And then I want to kind of dissect through how you're incorporating the Do the Thing formula through those challenges, because I know we incorporated it into my challenge. And I have a feeling that it's sort of something it's not even accidentally, but almost just coincidentally, yeah, coincidentally streamed in through.
So we've done so many different kind of challenges, and that's what I think is pretty cool about this is the psychology is the same. It's really is your formula, the Do the Thing formula. You just apply it, and it can be done in so many different methods. And we have like a challenge for meditation. We have a challenge for pets. You like kind of wonder like what could you do with pets, but you can build a challenge in a community around that. Working out outside, making your bed. And there's so many different things that we've done now for the challenge strategy, crafts, decorating, decor. That's what I think is just so cool is that every single brand has something that they're solving for their customers, even if it's not as obvious as hydration. There's this journey that your customer is going on. And that's what the challenge is all about, is facilitating that journey. And I'm just jumping into your formula, but it's so perfect. I know with your formula, the A being accountability, like that is one of the biggest things that the challenge offers is this journey that your customer is going on, but then having it be done in a group where they can share that same experience and that same journey with other people going through that same thing and find that accountability to get through. So I think that's like the coolest part is it can be done with any kind of brand or niche because they're all going on a journey and you just facilitate it.
And yeah, you just made me think for listeners that might just be coming on and maybe this might be the first one they're listening to. I'll go ahead and go through what the formula is so that way we can kind of dive in even more to how you incorporate it through your challenges. But basically, when I started this podcast, I was writing a book before I started the podcast, I was writing a book and realized I needed to interview people to basically see what the common patterns were in people being successful or in being able to do the thing. And so through the interviews, I think I'm up to 100 plus interviews now. I ended up
so impressive.
It's crazy. Yeah. I ended up realizing, wow, there's these common patterns that each person has every time they want to do the thing. And it was person after person. It was crazy. It was so crazy. And then finally, what I did was I wrote each of those patterns onto a card, like an index card. And I just had it sitting on my kitchen table for a while. And then all of a sudden, the word game came up really easily. So game was for goals, is the G in game. A is accountability. M is, well, at the time it was mindset. It wasn't my people. Now it's my people. And then E was educate. And so those were and then I had a few cards left over and I was, what do I do with these cards? Because I really wanted the formula to be an acronym. And then I had surrender in there as a card, as a separate card. But once I realized surrender really goes under mindset, it didn't deserve its own. Surrender really does go under mindset. So once I mixed it there, then I realized the other two letters sort of came to me. So yeah, so basically the formula is I'm game. So I is identify the why, M is mindset. And then now we go under game, which is goals, accountabilities, my people, and educate. And so then what I did was I looked at different programs that are successful, 12-step programs. I've interviewed people from AA, NA, Al-Anon. I've actually looked at Weight Watchers. I looked at this other program. It's a gym I had worked out with a while ago. It's Camp Transformation. And what else is there? Oh my gosh, the company I sold books door to door with that's been around since the 1800s. They incorporate the formula. So when I break down the pieces of these great programs and these great people, it's coming down to this formula. So they don't call it a formula, but they're incorporating it just naturally into their system. And so then when we were talking about this challenge, I'm like, oh my gosh, Alicia is using the formula too through these challenges, because that's how they're becoming so successful, right? By really, because that's what you've done through each one is identify the why, you come up with some kind of mindset strategy, having a goal, accountability, surrounding yourself with my people, and then educating. And so I thought this would be a great chance for us to just sort of talk about how you incorporate it through, because you're talking to all these different brands and then you're moving people. You said these are transformations that people are having through these challenges. And it's really unbelievable to watch. And I know even with my own challenge, I'm in the middle of it now. And the people that participated in the last one are now the advocates for it, because a lot of them have met someone or they've got huge success from it. So they're sitting there. They're still in it, even though they've met someone. They're like, can I just at least lurk in here? And then they'll pop every once in a while. I don't know if you've seen it. It's been so cool. I know I'm lurking, but I just wanted to tell you this is exactly what you need to do, because this is what happened to me. And then they're sharing their experience, which that's part 2 of educate. Because educate is learning, but then it's also you educating others on your experience.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny when you just break it down and how you just described your entire formula. I knew as the more I've got to know you and the more you've explained this to me, I knew this was part of the challenge. But just sitting, listening to all the pieces again, you're like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. Like this has been the biggest part of these communities and our challenges. And it's just, I think it's so cool what you've done. Kind of break it apart so you can see, all the components that made it so successful. Like psychology, you kind of understand it a little bit, but for you to really dissect it like this, that's really cool. It helps a lot to kind of understand why it was successful more.
Thank you. I know. And it's good because now if people sign up for a gym and they pay that money, and I don't even know what the percentages are of people going to the gym, but it's not high. A lot of times they're just paying the money and not going. And if that gym would just understand the formula and be able to just add a few pieces for the person to help them, that would be great. Or the person going, now that they know this formula and the pieces, if it is something they want to do, they can create it themselves. They can actually go through each piece and be able to make the most of it. So no longer does it have to be, oh, this gym didn't provide this or this, that, kind of blaming somebody else. You can take responsibility now, what's needed to move forward. And that's what I really like about it too.
Yeah. And it's just, I'm looking at it now even, and it's just so funny. All the things that I did throughout my challenge, and I even coach my clients on, I'm like, okay, at your kickoff party, when you get started, you want to make sure you're saying these three things or these things and like help them do this. And yeah, every single letter we could dissect into how it's into the challenge and everything. But I'll just start with the I, identifying your why. Every challenge, when we would start, one of the biggest things, especially for our hydration challenge, when we got started was so with the challenge, the structure of it is you have like a core objective that you have them pledge to do for however long. But then we always have like these little mini weekly challenges. And for the 60-day hydration challenge, for the first few rounds, the very first weekly challenge, I asked them to identify their why. That was legitimately the weekly challenge was like, okay, hey, you joined the 60-day hydration challenge this very first week. In order to be successful and in order to get through those hard days, this very first week, I really want you to identify your why and share with the group why you joined this challenge, why hydration is important to you. What are you trying to achieve? I even have that in my templates for all my clients in the first emails. When they register for the challenge, one of the emails that the customers get is identifying your why. So I just think it's so funny. It's your first one. And I know it's like an acronym, but it's like so perfect that it's the first because of everything. That was like one of the very first things that we would ask our community is identify your why and share your why. And in the emails, it's one of the first things that we ask them. So it's just really cool to see it laid out and that it is your first, because without a strong why, the hard days become really hard. And sometimes that's when, like with the gym, you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym because you don't know what your why is. So I think that's just such an important first step.
Yeah. And it's so funny to me because I've kind of lived this philosophy my life, right? When I talk about that job I had in college where I sold books door to door, and I've actually been interviewing some of the people from there and realizing that's where I got this structure from. When I did that job, they surrounded every piece of the formula is embedded in, and I just didn't realize it until I started to dissect the formula through the podcast. But even with that, though, even with me knowing how important it is to have your why, when I sign up for a new online program, when in the beginning, if they're like, identify your why, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't need that. I like still would say that because I've already done that work. I don't need it. But you realize, oh my gosh, it's so important. And when I think about the programs, because I'm sort of an online program junkie, I love online programs because I love learning, but there's some of them that I don't even do. I just buy them, And so I think of the programs that I haven't done. It's because I haven't done that identify the why. Why do I even want this thing? And so I'm saying this because I think there's other people out there that might be doing the same thing. And I remember skipping past modules on certain courses I did because I already know how to do this. I don't need help with the why part. And so I just want to get into the content. But you don't realize, dude, that's how you're going to get to do the thing.
Exactly. And for everything you do is a different why. So you might have identified it for your fitness goals or something like that. But then when you start off a different goal, relationships or something to do with your health or whatever, your why that you are doing that is just different. So I'm the same way. I'm guilty as charged too, because you're like, oh, I've done that work. So I already identified like why I want to do this overarching like broad thing, but really when it comes down to it, each specific thing that you try to achieve like has a different why. So it's just true. It's important. Like obviously you can have like a broader why of why you're just trying to be healthy in general, but maybe why you want to eat this certain way or why you want to work out this much. Those can be, it's just important to identify it for everything that you go into. So I do the same thing for sure.
Yeah. And I love that how you worded that too, because you might automatically discount something because you've already done that work, but you're right. Everything you do is a different why. So it's really important for you to get in when you're doing something new that's different and be able to identify it. Because you said when something gets hard or if you don't want to do something, you need to tap into that in order to be able to move sometimes.
Because it's easy to do the thing when it's an easy day, when you're feeling good and you have energy. But then if you really want to achieve something and it's a really hard day, I do not want to go to the gym or I do not want to wake up early. You have to remind yourself of that why. And that's going to be that voice in your head that will give you that motivation on those hard days.
Yeah. And I interviewed someone last week, I think it was, and she was sharing, I don't know if you heard about this, but she was sharing the 7 levels of why, which I really love. And it's basically every time So let's say like why I want to do something, you would say what your why you want to do it. And then you ask yourself, like you repeat back what your answer was. And then you say, but why? And then you do that 7 times. So you're breaking through each time what the real reason is, which I actually, so that was really cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into that because that can be super, super powerful. Even something that you could incorporate into the challenges of like helping them kind of break down their why in that way too.
Totally. Yeah. I think what they said, I looked into it after because it's a thing online where you could watch a video and stuff. And the guy was basically, until the point you're crying is when you found your why because you want it so bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
that's awesome.
Isn't that cool? I know I'll share that with you after. I'd love to also now talk about the next piece, which is mindset. So how have you been working that through with your challenges? Is there something that you've noticed that has helped with people's mindset or the stories they've had for themselves and creating a new story or keeping an open mind? Or is there something that you've noticed as a pattern there?
Absolutely. With a lot of my challenge clients, I've like tried to coach them on their first kickoff video is so important to set the standard. And the kickoff video is just basically the live video to start your challenge, where you invite everyone that's joined to come and watch to learn about what they can expect and everything like that. And I use that opportunity as more than just said, like, here are the rules, here's the challenge. I really, really try to emphasize the mindset at this point because it's at the beginning. That's why I also love mindset at the beginning. Identify your why and then mindset. It's such an important first 2 steps to achieving anything. And with our kickoff video, I always talk to our community about our mindset. We go over our mission statement, what it means to be a water warrior and to be joining this community, and what it means to embrace our culture, essentially. And we talk about because 60 days of hydration or any of these challenges, I'll just use the hydration one, it's a long time. And it's a long time to like set a goal and try to achieve it. So I try to talk with them about the ups and the downs that they can experience in 60 days. I talk about some days you're just might fail, and that's okay. But the biggest thing that's most important is that you don't quit. That's so funny. Even still today, even though I've sold the company, I still check in on the community occasionally, and all of them talk to each other like this. Like I've set the verbiage and the language in that community, and they all still talk to each other. When a new community member comes in, hey, welcome to our community. Here's what to expect. The most important thing is that even if you have a bad day, just don't quit. And like, I think that's so cool because like a lot of times us as humans, we like set out to do a goal. And if we have one bad day, then we're just done. We're like, oh, that's it. And that's just unrealistic of us to expect of ourselves. You're going to have a bad day. You might even fail a day, like completely fail a day. And so I really try on the beginning and throughout every single live video with them to remind them, it's okay. We're human. Just don't quit. And that's been like really cool to see them like still embody that mindset. And I think that's like 60 days is a long time. And that's what's gotten a lot of people to accomplish and finish it. And, the results that they have achieved over 60 days, even if they had like a bad week, they just completely checked out for a week and didn't drink their water, didn't participate. We say, hey, come back in, just don't quit. And that's been really cool because they still go through incredible transformations because they like keep that mindset throughout the whole time. So that's been one of the biggest things with our challenge and with other clients' challenges that I try to remind them of is just keeping a good mindset of getting back in the game and continuing even if you have bad days. So I just think that's really cool that you have it at the beginning of your formula too.
I know it's so weird, Alicia, because when I was doing I told you about the cards and the letters and all that stuff. It wasn't even originally, I wasn't planning on it being in order of how you should do it, but it ended up being in order of how you should do it. And you do need to, sometimes you might have to go back up to the why or go back up to mindset or go to another piece if something's not working. But the beginning stages of setting up, when you do the thing, it's literally in order, which is crazy.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
I just think that's so cool because those are the top two things we talk about at the beginning of every challenge. Then identify the why and get your mindset ready. And of course, you got to remind yourself exactly what you said. Sometimes you'll go back to mindset. Sometimes you'll go back to your why. And every weekly live video, we'd remind them of our mindset and different things. So it's things you can go back to, but to start off, like we love to kind of go in the exact order you put it, which is so great.
So what are some other, with the other brands that you worked with, what are some other ways that you've approached mindset with them in addition to the kickoff video and how they're able to talk about their mission and things like that?
No, that's a great question. So a lot of the challenges, when you look at it, we have hydration challenge, make your bed challenge, workout outside. And one of the biggest pieces of the mindset that I try to tell all of my clients is to remind them that it's so much more than just making your bed and working out outside and hydration. That for the making your bed challenge, we say, hey, we're challenging you to make your bed every single day for 60 days. But the reason is, so kind of putting them into a bigger mindset of why they're doing what they're doing, and what you can achieve by doing this thing every single day and what the community is all about. And so I try to remind all my clients to say hey, this is our core objective of what we're trying to achieve, but remind them that it's so much more, that they're going to achieve so much more than just making their bed every single day. It's going to be habits and discipline and community and relationships. And so that's one piece of it that I try to have all my clients remind them to tell their community that it's just a lot more than just making your bed or just drinking water. So that's been super helpful because sometimes when you join a challenge, oh, what's the point of making your bed? And there is a lot more to it than just that, if that makes sense.
And what's coming to my mind right now, which is kind of funny, is when you first planted the seed of a challenge in my head, unknowingly, and I reached out to you after the interview and said, oh, actually, now I'm thinking about doing a challenge. And you were so great. You gave me all the information I needed pretty much to just do it on my own. And then I remember you saying, if I did end up working with you down the road, you really want to do a Facebook Live and all this stuff. And at the time, that was so far from what I thought I could do in my head, because I built up what a Facebook Live was and what that would take for me. And so
I would never guess that. You're so good at it.
Thank you. It's funny when I think about it. I almost want to look at the old emails because I remember saying, do I have to do the Facebook Lives if I do the challenge? But it was because I didn't want to be put on the spot. And so put myself out there with that. And so I remember you saying, well, you could do it without, but it's kind of pointless because it's not going to be as engaging if you're not putting yourself out there. And so that's kind of one of the other things I just was well, let me do it on my own and sort of test the waters. And that's why the first one, pretty much you gave me everything I needed, which was so amazing. And it just the value you provide just for nothing is so great. And so I created that first one. And then all of a sudden, as the challenge is going, I'm having so much fun with the community and talking to them that I'm okay, I guess I should just do a Facebook Live. And so then I got to play with it a little. And then that fear of whatever it was in my head sort of broke down because the community was so supportive of me when I was basically telling them that I'd never done this before. And they were really supportive. But I'm just thinking, broke my mind, you got me through that mindset almost by just getting me to do it in a way. And I'm just wondering, I wanted to speak to that to see if you've seen that with other people that you've worked with and if you've had to help them overcome anything from the person running the challenge too. Because I guess I had a lot to overcome in mindset just myself.
Yeah, no, I love that you bring that up because at the beginning earlier, I said that it changed my life just doing this challenge and running this. And that was probably the biggest mindset shift that I even had too, I always thought Facebook Lives were so cool because you could interact with your community live and you could build such such good engagement. But I was, oh man, I don't know how to do that. There's no way. And I hadn't been speaking that in front of people. And so it's such a vulnerable thing. And I had to go through that same mindset shift myself. So I'm glad that you bring that up because it seems to be almost every founder or owner of the companies that are running their challenges have had to go through the same mindset shift as well. Almost every single one of them. And it's just because sometimes you every single one, including myself, you think you have to show up and be perfect. It was, well, I've never done a Facebook Live. What if I mess up? Like, I'm going to stumble on my words. And that vulnerability and just doing it was the power of those videos. And that's been the case for every single person that's running a challenge, is that like they were nervous and they're like, I don't know if I can do this. And even my Make Your Bed challenge, her name's Jennifer, and her and I got on a call before her first live video, and she had so much nerves in her, and she's like, what do I do? And I just like sat and coached her through my first live video too, because I thought I was going to throw up. And I was like, no, listen, you're being vulnerable and showing up is going to show your community so much about you and your brand that it's so much more powerful than being perfect. But that was like just a huge mindset shift for all of us of just, hey, you don't have to be perfect. You just show up and show your community that you actually genuinely care and that you're there to help them. And that's really all that matters. People like that so much more than you being perfect, and even when you make mistakes, it's like, hey, this person's human too. And so every single one of us, Stacey, it wasn't just you. I had to go through the nerve-wrackingness of your first video. And it's so funny that we all have, and just all of us making that mindset shift. Because for me, it absolutely changed my life in just doing it. So you just got to do it, see how it feels, and see the impact that you can make, whether or not you're perfect. And it changed my life and how I'm able to communicate with people beyond just the challenge, for sure.
Yeah. And this is getting me even more excited for the other challenge we're going to do together, because I mentioned, and I just signed up for it too, because I'm so excited about it. I'm going to do a Do the Thing public speaking challenge in February with you. And it's because I think it stems from me getting to see how people can react to things that I say, even though in my head it's still not perfect yet. And it is imperfect, but it's still connecting. Like, so many people have had transformations with me not being perfect. And I think there's so many other people out there that have so much wisdom to share and to speak to, that are just not, they're either saying, oh, well, I'm going to wait until blank, or no, I can't do that because blank, or whatever the 500 things that they could be saying to themselves are. But if you could somehow almost just take that one step, right, and get them to be able to speak in a way that resonates, then there's just so much in that, and so much change that can happen in the world.
I'm excited for that one for sure. Because public speaking is everyone's number one fear. And you're absolutely right. Everyone has so much to offer. And I'm really excited to see the impact you can help people make, kind of coming over that roadblock. Because it's one of the hardest roadblocks, even for myself, to go through, just having confidence in your voice and what you have to say. And you're absolutely right. It just doesn't have to be perfect. It's just how you can show up. So I'm really excited for that one. I think that would be so helpful for so many people.
I think people don't realize how they think, oh, I don't want to be a public speaker, but it's not about that. It's so much more. It's, you just never know when you're going to need
presenting yourself.
Yeah. When you're going to need to do it. And then don't you want to have the choice? So when the time comes and you can do something, that you're able to. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's even just talking in a group of 5 people and how you articulate your words and say your message. And like, that's public speaking in a sense, it doesn't need to be on stage. And it's so funny, actually, kind of going into that. I loved public speaking my whole life. Like, I was always a very outgoing kid. And then as soon as we started doing our business, we just were in our little hermit shells for so mmany years that when I came back out and did the community and did the group live videos, and then I was invited to do some speeches for e-commerce. And it was so scary. I'm like, why is this so scary for me? So it's a muscle. It's like you have to be exercising it. I honestly thought I'd be able to just jump right back in, but it is very much a muscle. Anything really is. You just have to be practicing it. Your mindset, your why, all that. So if you can keep practicing it, then you don't lose touch of, being able to do that. So I thought that was so weird how scared I got when I used to love it. Which is so
weird. And it's just, it's getting out of practice. And I love that you brought up it being a muscle, because that's part of mindset. It's just understanding that you have to do something repetitively in order to feel comfortable with it. And I think we talked about a little bit on your first episode with how you rebuilt confidence too, and being able to do something over and over again. And then also having that, because I've been saying this, and this happened last night. I had my weekly call yesterday. I'm in week 2 of the Dating Dare Challenge, and I had an expert coming on, and I was so excited about her speaking. And I don't know what happened, but I couldn't figure out how to get her on my Zoom through the Facebook Live, because you're connecting all these pieces together. Yeah. And I was okay about it. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to have her be on the speaker on my phone. And everyone else was fine. They totally were fine. It was like totally fine. And so that idea of imperfect action is better than no action at all is really just coming up for me. And just don't let things being perfect bottleneck you from making something happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've done that way too many times. And it's just better, like you saying that. I actually saw that part of your video, and I didn't know that there was a problem. I thought that was just what you were like meant to do. I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, like I would have never known that was cool. Like a technical issue at all.
So let's go through the rest of the formula. So we've already done I'm. So we've done identify the why, and then mindset, which was great. And now we're moving on to game. So we're doing the G in game, which is goals. So how do you incorporate the goals through the challenges?
I think that's actually probably the piece that all of the rest of these were unintentional, but I think the goal part was intentional in the sense of like, all right, if we give them something, so every challenge has a core objective that they pledge to do, and it's every single day. And what I like to do with our challenges is just meet them where they're at. For most of the cases, it's how many ounces of water do you pledge? It's not like a gallon drinking challenge. It's like meet them where they're at. And so we build that, our core objective of each challenge, as the main goal of the thing where it's like, hey, do this thing every single day for the next 60 days. And that's been one of the things that have kept people, it's been a goal that's realistic, that's simple, they can implement into their lives, and it just met them where they're at to be able to do it. I think that's been one of the most important parts, is not setting like this big goal that's way outside of most people's limit. You have to let them kind of customize or choose where they're at for that. For your challenge, do the thing dating their challenge. It's write down that yours wasn't customizable, but it's something simple that everyone can incorporate into their lives daily, of just writing down one thing that they love about themselves. And it is, in a sense, personal. It's their personal goal, because everyone's experience will be different. So that's kind of been the point of the challenge, is to give them the goal for 60 days. This is your goal. Just drink water. Just write down one thing you love about yourself. And then the rest of our challenge, like we have our weekly challenges, and in your case, we have the weekly dares. Those are kind of the additional need of like, hey, if you want to take this further, here's these other things that we challenge you to do. And you can like choose to participate in all of them or none of them. But the biggest part of it was just meeting people where they were at, because you just get people from all walks of life. And so that was like the most important thing for all of my challenges that I've helped design, is we don't want to make it a 60-day do 50 push-ups challenge. Like for our workout challenge, it's how many minutes do you pledge? And that just made it so realistic and attainable for a lot of people, but gave them the one thing to focus on, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. And I really like that, because I think we talked about this too, but I just think it's so important. It's just that idea of having someone feel successful for the work that they've done versus comparing themselves to
exactly
unobtainable number that other people need to do.
That's the best way to say that. It's like, that's exactly it. Where we often like compare ourselves to, and you find these people that join these programs, these like fitness programs or whatever, and they're just at a different level. And maybe you can join these programs when you're at that level or whatever, but offering our challenges the way they are just helps people feel successful. And when people do feel successful, they'll continue on. That's actually something in the mindset, jumping back a little bit with goals, that we would always tell people is like, hey, set your ounces of water where you're at. Don't be comparing yourself with somebody else drinking 100 ounces of water or 20 ounces of water. This is your journey. This is like for you and only you. So whether or not you hit your intake, and if it's only 20 ounces of water, celebrate it, and then build yourself up to like to where you want to be eventually. But that's exactly, you said it perfectly.
And then you're having this like psychological win because you've reached it.
Exactly. And I think that's more important to help people achieve. Obviously we want to push people, and we told them like, hey, if drink half your body weight in ounces. But if that's too hard, just start somewhere. Start at 10 ounces, 20 ounces. And we obviously, you want to challenge people outside of their comfort zone. But I think them feeling that little bit of success is more important than pushing them right into the water, if that makes sense.
Totally. And then as far as the goals go, and this is going to get us to merge right to accountability to the end game, because they sort of blend together once you sort of set the plan, and I'll walk everyone through that in a minute. But you also do a great job with creating a challenge packet, which basically shows the goals that they have in one clean visual for them to be able to track. Do you want to kind of talk through, because I know we did something a little different for my challenge, but talk through generally how you lay that out?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think a big part of the challenge packet is the calendar. And what we do is we'd have people write how many ounces of water they drink on their calendar every single day. And when you can look at 60 days on a calendar or 40 days or whatever your challenge is, you can visually see, this is what I need to achieve. It doesn't become this unending goal that you're not sure where you're heading with it. You see, this is the start and this is the finish. And by them writing down their ounces every single day, that helped them. It's actually funny because at the bottom of the calendar, we always put my goal. What's my goal? And so they have to write 60 ounces or whatever they've pledged to do. So they're reminded every single day, this is your goal. And then mark off every single day how many ounces you have drank. And it's just that visual reminder to check it off and there's something. It's actually what we tell our community all the time. There's something so rewarding and satisfying seeing it being checked off and kind of developing your calendar. And at the end, you look back and be like, oh my gosh, I did it. And then you want to keep going because it's not truly the end, but at least it gives you that point A to point B, then a huge pat on the back that you did it for point A to point B.
Yeah. And this is where the magic in the I'm game formula basically happens, because the goal is you creating this calendar and you setting out how many ounces you want to drink or how many dares you want to do or whatever it is that you're tracking, core objective. That's great. But there's some people that will just leave it at that, right? They're like, okay, I've got this great goal thing. They won't realize the importance of actually checking that thing off. And so that's why the next letter is accountability, because you actually checking it off is the accountability by you saying, I'm going to check it off after I complete it. Because how many times does someone create a calendar or something that they're going to check off and not check it off? And right. So there's that's why that next step, which is the accountability piece, which is actually checking it off, is so important, because that's how you're holding yourself accountable to be able to do the thing.
Exactly. And we even have in all of our communities a weekly roll call or check-in where we ask everyone to comment a picture of their calendar. So they know every single week at the same time, there's going to be a place for them to check in and show that they did it. And that's been something we didn't implement right away. It was kind of evolved into our challenge strategy. And as soon as we started doing that, we noticed more and more people checking in and showing off that they did it. And there's something, it's kind of bleeds into my people, which is so funny. Having your people to be accountable to and you seeing that other people checked off every single day of the week and you're like, oh, I can do that too. I can do the dares and show up and post a picture of my calendar. So it gives them that accountability to check it off with themselves, but then also in the community with their people.
And it's so funny because I remember when we were building out my challenge and I had gotten exit interviews from the people that did that first one that I had done. Mm-hmm. And we were able to incorporate, I think, almost everything that they had said, except for the one thing they were saying they wish that we had more of was accountability with a person. And the first challenge, I had tried to set up little accountability pods. But the problem with that, and this is what we discussed too, and you were so good at helping me kind of identify if this was going to work or not, was you had said something, I don't know if you remember, but the problem is if someone else doesn't, if the other person on the other end isn't going to be the same level as you for accountability, then it's not going to work, because then they're going to almost get even more deflated. So that was why you really liked the idea of the weekly roll call as the ultimate accountability. And I agree. I think it's brilliant because unless you have someone that 100% certainty that person's always going to be there for you, having more of that group hive of accountability is even more powerful because you're able to just count on that group is there versus just that one person.
That's a great way to say that. Because there's a power in community, and it's absolutely right. If you have like a workout buddy and they sleep in a day, like, oh, I guess I could maybe sleep in. It's easier to not wake up early if your partner's slept in too. But if you have this community of people at your door, and this is just hypothetical, knocking at your door saying, hey, we're waking up and working out, then it's the power of numbers and being a part of something. So then you want to wake up and go work out too.
And I think it depends on the situation because I have a friend that I go hiking with every Tuesday. So we went today actually, and I leave my house at 4:45 in the morning.
I was about to ask what time you do that because it's still so early.
Yeah, no, actually, no, I don't leave at 4:45. I leave at 4:15 in the morning and I get there at 5 and we're hiking this mountain like 5 in the morning. And
that is so impressive.
It's crazy when I think about it because it's still dark. And I always tell her, I'm like, I love 5 a.m. people. There's something about people at 5 a.m. that are hiking a mountain that just, I love, like so much.
It's the best feeling. I get that.
Yeah. And then I have another friend. I think I've talked to you about her, but we do Peloton together, not together. She lives in Colorado and I'm in San Diego, but I know if she says she's coming, she's there. Right. And so it's those people are great. The ones that 100% for sure. But when you're doing a challenge and you might not know everyone, it's really hard to really set up a specific person. That's where the group is important. I want to make sure I'm clarifying that for everyone because there's sometimes when this group accountability hive is good when it's a structured situation like this. And then there's other times that maybe you even need to add another piece of having an accountability person, but you better know that person is someone that you can count on and having an expectations call or visit with them. So then you guys kind of have the same understanding of what that role is.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great clarification for sure on all that. Because like my boyfriend, Chad, he's always been the best accountability for our business goals. Can we hold each other to a standard? And I know I can rely on him and he will make sure, check in, see how I'm doing. And so it's a really good, I'm glad you clarified that because it's so powerful when you have a person that they will hold you accountable to what you said you wanted to achieve.
So before we move on to my people, do you have anything else to share in terms of accountability and ways that you can hold yourself accountable or have others help you?
Well, the biggest thing is kind of back in mindset a little bit, but accountability that I always told the community is that you get what you give. And that was like something kind of with accountability. And when you show up and put yourself out there and share your experience and post in the group or whatever it might be that you're trying to achieve, like you get back that. And so it's kind of a piece of accountability, but also mindset of just like reminding our community, hey, if you're showing up and like supporting others and somebody's having a bad day and you can offer help, you get that back tenfold. And that's been something that our community now tells each other all the time in the hydration challenge, like, hey, you get what you give. And so it encourages people to show up for each other a lot. And like, that's been really cool to see like develop throughout all these challenges and just a reminder to people of like, if you're showing up and being accountable to your goals and what you're achieving, so much comes back from that experience of sharing and helping others. So I think that's a cool piece that kind of blends accountability and mindset.
And you know what else I just remembered you do that's really good is having them post their pledge. That goes under accountability also.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the biggest pieces. I forgot about that.
No, I didn't think about it until you just said sharing your experience. And do you want to kind of talk through what that's when you have them post their pledge?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's for every challenge, no matter what challenge, even if it's for yours, it's pledging to do the challenge, like to join the Dating Dare challenge. It wasn't pledging to have a certain amount of ounces or anything like that, but I still find it so powerful to have them pledge, regardless of whether it's just pledging to join or pledging to drink a certain amount or pledging to work out a certain amount or whatever, because it's this psychological thing. And actually with your challenge packet, that's how I like looked into the numbers and actually like dove into it a lot more. I learned so much helping you with your challenge, which was great. Because I always had people post the pledges, but after looking into it and seeing the statistics where you're like 65% more likely to achieve a goal if you share it with somebody else. And it's like I knew that, but I didn't know how much. And so I learned so much helping you with your challenge. But that's like a huge piece of that accountability is like when you go out there and you tell somebody that you're going to do this thing, that holds you to a different level, accountability subconsciously too. Of just, hey, I told so-and-so in this community that I'm going to do this thing. And so you can't kind of sneak by or like, I won't do it because that people know. And so I think that's like such a powerful thing with all of our communities is just having them do that pledge, like show up and show everyone else that you're going to join and you're going to participate. And I really feel like that's helped with engagement and getting people to commit for sure.
It's so meaningful too. I know just seeing even people in my challenge when they're posting their pledge and sharing why they're there too. So they're kind of doing a little bit of all of it. It's really powerful to be able to, I think you said it with impact, just see the impact that just a little bit of structure and accountability can do for people.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
So now we're moving on. So we did identify the why, mindset. So that's the I'm part of I'm game, and then goals, accountability. And now we are on my people.
I love that.
These challenges are such a great way to get yourself around like-minded people. And I think that a lot of people, and this is the distinction I've learned recently, it's not just surrounding yourself with positive, encouraging people. It's surrounding yourself with positive, encouraging people that are doing the same thing as you. I actually realized this even just in Toastmasters, because I just recently joined that because I am trying to improve my speaking. But I'm able to be around people that are all wanting the same thing as me, to develop themselves and learn more about how they can present things clearly and effectively. And there's something to that I really think is powerful. Like, even though I have amazing, supportive, encouraging friends, it's a whole nother way for me to be around my people when I'm around them because they all want the same thing.
It's super powerful. And that's what I loved about the communities and challenges is when you're going through a shared experience with a similar journey as a group of people, the power in being able to be around those people that have the same struggles, successes, breakthroughs, roadblocks, all the things that you're going through. Because you're absolutely right. You can have your friends that obviously love you and support you, but if they're not going through the same obstacles and roadblocks and experiencing the same breakthroughs, it's just a different level of interaction with those kind of people. So surrounding yourself with people that are doing what you're doing, are going through a similar experience has been so cool from everyone, from a business owner's perspective for our brand. To have people go through a similar experience is so powerful for our brand, but also just for the people in there, because you can find a different level of support and a different level of community than you can in their outside world if they don't have people going through that similar journey.
Yeah. And then that leads us into the last piece of the formula, which is educate. And actually, when you're around my people, you're also able to get educated from them. And I heard this quote. I interviewed David Bush recently, and he's the author of Live an Extraordinary Life. And he said the experience of others compresses time for you. So you're able, and it wasn't exactly written like that. I'm trying to remember the exact way that he worded it. But basically, by learning from other people, you're compressing time for you to learn that thing. And
absolutely,
there's something about that magic of when you're around the people that are doing the same thing as you, and then you're able to learn from them, then it really speeds up your success. But not only that, you get new ideas, new portals open up. And even though you might not do that exact thing that person did, it levels you up in a way that you wouldn't have had before. And I really like that.
That's such a good quote. It's so funny you say that. I was just watching a video the other day that said, like, obviously our challenges in these communities are free that we're doing. But even if you were to pay for a coaching or like somebody, like a coaching program or something, you're not paying for them necessarily. You're paying for time. That's what I heard the other day. And because exactly that, being around somebody or like learning from other people just compresses the time in which you need to learn that thing. And when I heard that, I'm like, that's such a good way to put it. The challenges obviously are free, but if you were to do something like that, you're not paying for that person's expertise, I guess. I don't know how to phrase that, but you're paying for that time and not having to go and learn it yourself and having the support of people kind of help you through that. So I love that you said that, because I actually just heard that the other day too, similar of that, where it's the time, compressing time, which is our most important commodity, really.
And it's like a shortcut. If you can get a shortcut on learning something, why not? And it's funny, even one of my friends did in the first challenge, she had created her own singles event basically on a boat and like invited people and made it into a singles thing. And I didn't even plan for that on the first challenge. And it was cool. So the challenge inspired her to do that. And then that idea then inspired all other people to do other stuff related to that. Not the same exact thing, obviously, like not on a boat with the singles thing, but it's just you get ideas that you wouldn't have had before by, number one, surrounding yourself with my people and then getting educated by them too.
And there's that saying, you're the average of the people you hang out with. I don't remember how many people or what that quote is exactly, but I believe that is so true. Surrounding yourself with people that you want to be like and aspire to be, so, and always being humble in the sense of like, hey, there's so much for me to learn. Then I feel like that's you just become the average of that. So always being conscientious of who you're around and do you want to be them, and do you want that, is that what you're aspiring to achieve? And I always try that in my own life, my own circles and my own groups and stuff, to remind myself of that, of you do become the average of who you associate with.
Yeah. And you just made me think of this too. You mentioned earlier how you researched a lot during my challenge, because we were I think I even came up with the Iron Game formula as you were building it out. I think it was, you had already built out the packet and then all of a sudden, sorry, I figured out the formula. We need to redo the formula page. And you were so cool about,
which was so worth it. This is so good.
And then you kind of had to go back in, because when you realized the whole packet was pretty much you embedding the formula into it, then you had to educate yourself. You said, right? You had to figure out, okay, what is the percentage of people posting their pledge and announcing they're going to do something, doing it? You had to almost get into, even though you already know you're an expert at building challenges, you had that learning mindset to be able to educate yourself to connect it all together, which I think is really cool.
That's what I loved about working with you, was like I said, always being humble to knowing that you can learn more. Being with you and talking with you, I've learned so much more about the challenge and like how to best implement it, is because you had this incredible formula that I didn't even know existed, and putting it out this way, and it's helped me with all of my challenges understand the psychology of why it works. And so it's been fun. That's why I was excited to do this podcast, because I always learn so much with you.
Oh, it's so cool. I feel the same way. It's been so amazing. And I've already got like a few after the speaking one, I have a few more challenges. So we're just going to be hanging out for a while now.
Yeah, that's perfect.
The other piece that I think we could do something really cool about this for future things. And I think you've already done this with the Water Warriors, but when I realized, I talked to someone, because originally educate in the I'm Game formula was just educating yourself, learning about, I'm sure when you guys did the Make Your Bed challenge, there was some kind of facts about how important it is to make your bed and how it changes every other part of your life type of thing. And then the same thing when you did the hydration challenge, right? It's educating people. And then I last night had the expert on talking about why I gave certain dares and helping them flex their muscles to be able to open their minds up to certain things, constantly having the people be educated on learning how to do the thing. And then also what we talked about from learning from other people. But when I interviewed someone that had gone through the Al-Anon program, she was talking to me about how, and we all know this with AA, right? So like that you get a sponsor basically after when you've achieved the thing that you've done, whether it's stopping drinking or helping someone else stop drinking or whatever it is, that thing, or losing weight, whatever that 12-step program you're in, they then become a sponsor to help others achieve the thing. And so there's that educating others piece that really makes you feel like you're contributing, to a greater purpose. And so that's something I was thinking of doing as I'm seeing the people that participated in the last challenge that got so much success, is having some kind of like ambassador program. So then they feel like even more a part of the community. And I think you did this with the Water Warrior, but I thought I would mention it because there's so much in that I think is so amazing. And actually thinking about David Bush, I'm pretty sure this came out in his interview. He lost 100 pounds. And now by him being a coach, that's actually helping him stay accountable to be able to keep the weight off, but then also to help others lose the weight. And I think there's so many people that are doing that too, where it almost helps them stay in that thing that they're trying to do.
Yeah, I love that you bring this up so much. That's what I'm saying. You have the best questions and best like prompts. Because yeah, that is such a huge piece to anything that you're learning and doing. But yeah, with our water warriors, we had members. They've done 13 net rounds now of the 60-day challenge. I believe I left at the 10th round, but we have people that have joined us on the very first round in 2020, January 2020, that still do the challenge and have taken on an ownership role of the community, where when people come in, they're like, hey, this is why we're drinking water. Your taste buds do change. This is fruit infused water. This is everything that we've taught them. Now they're teaching and enhancing and making even better than we could have ever, because they are taking their own twists and their own experiences and their own breakthroughs of like getting rid of headaches or losing weight in ways that we have never experienced, and bringing a whole new level of education to our community that we could ever even provide. So that was so cool to see. And I really, really want you to continue with that with your community. Like I know you have some members from your first round, but there's so much power in people achieving something and then sharing it, because everyone's experience achieving that goal is going to be different. So there's so much education to be had from how people experienced that thing. And even myself with the challenges, a lot of it was just like scrapped together. Just like, I think this will do, and I think this will work, and let's try this. And then as soon as I like started teaching people, like even just with you, like having to ask myself, why did I do that? Why did we have a weekly roll call? Why do I make them pledge? And you learn so much about why you did what you did when you teach. And so I love that you say education is not only educating yourself, but educating others, because I genuinely believe that this last year, teaching others different things that I learned running my brand has actually educated me more than the 7 years of running my brand. Because there's so much power in like having to know why you did it, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it makes me think of even when I started this podcast, I hadn't even published an episode yet. I think I did 7 episodes or something. And I had gotten introduced to this woman who was doing a cohort for people on starting a podcast. And the guy that helped me, that runs the platform for this podcast, he had referred me to her. And I ended up being the expert in her cohort. I mean, she had a million other people, not a million. She had other people that were amazing and stuff, but I was kind of considered an expert just because I had been doing it longer than these other people. And I was actually able to present and help people start a podcast through my presentation. People were thanking me after, and I really told them about that. Being imperfect is okay. Because I think that's the other thing. People think they have to have all these steps in place in order to do something. And so you really just need to be a few steps ahead of someone else. It doesn't have to be years. It could be months, and then you can be able to impact others. And I think I bring this up just because it was that moment of me sharing how I started this podcast. It actually helped me motivate me even more to do the podcast, because I felt so good by being able to help other people. And I think in these challenges, we're giving people the same opportunity to help others and create their own level of impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've thought of it with the communities and challenges but you just saying that is absolutely that people have the opportunity to make their own impact. And that's what makes them the community so strong. It's because it's more than just you or your brand. It's this community sharing that experience. But that's really cool with your podcast. That's like that saying, like, you only need to be a page ahead or whatever of you don't need to be the expert. You just need to be like one page ahead in the book that you're reading. Share with somebody else, which is it's a cool reminder.
Well, I am just so grateful that you were able to come on. And it's so cool. How you just kind of unknowingly, you just did this naturally. And these challenges are such a huge way for people to be able to do the thing. And whether they want to drink more water or meditate more or go into a relationship or whatever the thing is they want to do, it's just such a great way to catapult them to be able to do it through going through a challenge.
And honestly, thank you for kind of helping me understand all these pieces. It's just, I have your formula pulled up on my screen this whole time. And of course, I've like realized it, but just seeing it and breaking it down, it kind of blows my mind, honestly. So thank you for putting that together.
I know. I'm excited to when the book comes out and AA and all these 12-step programs and Weight Watchers. And they're like, wait, it's not just the 12 steps. It's all these other pieces.
Yeah.
Because no one talks about the other pieces. They only talk about the 12 steps. And so it's just kind of interesting when I think about it.
No, I love it. I think it's so cool that you've developed this. It's honestly one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time.
Thank you.
Kudos to you on that.
Thanks, Alicia. So can you share, so if someone's listening and they're a brand and they want to find out how to work with you and help you create a challenge for them, can you share with them on how to do that and what the best step is for them to follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's challengemakers.com is my website where you can learn. I have a free mini course that kind of breaks down the psychology, not this well. This episode needs to be a course in there, but breaks down the challenge framework so you can get that. Or there's a full course that step by step with templates, or you can apply to work with me directly. That's all at challengemakers.com.
So cool. And then if someone wants to do a challenge, like participate in one, what would be your biggest piece of advice on how they should approach it?
Just kind of going back to that mindset and accountability piece that I said, you get what you give. All these challenges, especially paid ones or our free community ones, it's what you put into it is what you get out. And that's been the experience I've seen over the years with everyone, is those that are showing up and really making the effort and doing the dares and sharing their experiences have the biggest transformations. So just always remember that.
So perfect. Thank you, Alicia. So great having you on again.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. This was so much fun.
Thanks for listening to the Do the Thing podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, but even more, we hope you'll be inspired to do the thing. Do you have a burning question on doing the thing that you'd like answered? How about an inspiring do the thing story of your own that you'd like to share? We'd love to hear all about it. Just leave us a voice message at dothething.callcast.co or email us at hello@dothethingpodcast.com.